Welcome. So currently we're looking at different ways of programming drums. We've looked at a generally very safe, very conservative kind of sort of quite straightforward kind of drum programming approach. And as an approach that will sort of resemble sort of using very small sort of repeated kind of MIDI or audio clips. That's what we have there. Now, as an expansion of that, we can also use, I'm going to copy and paste the code in. We can also use a combination of the one-shot samples, which are like here, and then we can also have a loop, which is here, the amen break. So this is what this sounds like. The most important part for us to work through is basically what's happening here. So we've got the name of the sample, which is the amen loop. We've got a rate of 0.5. Now, 0.5 means that it's sort of running at that sort of at normal pitch. If you change it to 1.0, so we raise it, we essentially double that value. The drum pattern will play twice as fast. So you can hear that the drum pattern is only playing for half the length of all of the others. So basically it plays for 2 beats and then disappears for another 2. And this is related to the sleep. So if both increasing the sample rate up to 1.0 and also decreasing the sleep from 4 to 2 should make up the difference. You may well be into that kind of chipmunky type sort of sound, I don't know. But, you know, let's say that we'll return it back to here. So that gives us very much in that sort of Public Enemy and various other kind of classic kind of hip-hop type sounds. If we take beat stretch, so let's say that we halve beat stretch to 1 rather than 2. Let's have a listen to that. So we can hear that beat stretch has pretty much produced the same effect as kind of rate. So where we took rate up to 1, this result, whilst keeping beat stretch at 2, this resulted in this kind of chipmunky, let's call it that, this kind of chipmunk type sort of sound. So we've done exactly the same thing with beat stretch. Therefore, the more that the beat stretch gets closer to 0, the higher the sample. That's what we can correlate here. And then if we go in the opposite direction, so if we have it as 4, it should basically halve, right? That's what we should be hearing. So that's what we've got there. So 8 doubling again. Now, if we wanted to hear it for the full duration, we'd have to change the sleep values to sort of allow for enough space for the whole sort of loop to play. But that's what we have there. Now, in terms of things like start, we can also define a starting point within the sample. At the moment, start and finish are 0.0 and 1. So if we made the start 0.1, we would hear this. So you can hear it. Let me comment out the other patterns. So we can hear that it basically starts playing from a particular point within the sample. So we could do the same with finish. We can make it 0.9. So that's the equivalent of a kind of a turntable kind of cut, where we just sort of mute the channel or something like that. Here it is as 8. 7. Now, if we wanted to make the differences be felt, we would have to address it, actually change the sleep value to sort of produce this kind of new sound. So let's say that we wanted it to just be 0.5. So essentially half the sample. So if we change the sleep value, if we halve the sleep value, now we could just as much, let's have a listen to what this one sounds like. So if we have 1.0 there, but we have 0.5 as the start, we can feature a different part of the loop. So this is halfway through the looped pattern. So we can have that. Let's see if we can go a bit lower, shall we? So this is basically 1/4. That's the idea. So if we change that to 1, and here there's a bit of a click, 0 crossing. Here we go. I knew they wouldn't sync up. We could move this around, 0.25 and 0.5. And as long as we hold those ratios, in terms of 1/4, then we're pretty much in a good place. Try that one. These different kinds of start and finish times, beat stretching, rate changes, and actually combine that with the 2 times do or 8 times do. So you can define a pattern within the live loop. Let's say that we do 2 times do, I would always sort of recommend, so let's see, let's say that this is the full pattern. So this is basically the first bit that we should hear. Of course, it's supposed to be for the sleep is a little bit longer, right? Excellent. And then we can copy and paste this, and let's say that we have it only as half as long, 0.5. Therefore, the sleep is half again, and instead of 2 times, because it's half, we double it, so we make it 4. Let's hear that, how that sounds. Excellent. So there we go. So you could kind of do that. Let's say that we're going to copy this one, and we're going to change it to 2, and then actually I could have just copied it anyway. 2, but we're going to start this one at 0.5 and this one's going to finish at 1.0. So the first half, it will start at the beginning of the loop, and then the second half, the other two times do, it's going to start halfway through the bar. Let's have a listen. Now the middle code, now this one. So we could have that. And again, you know, you can kind of then create a kind of a call and response type pattern. So therefore, so at this point, you can see the way the code is going. You start to go, okay, what's going on here? And it is here where you would sort of begin to use your kind of comments to remind yourself. It's one thing to know what you're doing right now, and it's another thing when you come back to it a week later or 6 months later and you go, what was I thinking when I did this? So we might say plays for loop. Plays off the loop, and then here plays the second half of the loop. Now we can copy it with the comments, overwrite those. So here it's going to play the for loop, here it's going to play the first half. And then what we're going to have is one time, not in the Fugees kind of way, but for one time we're going to have, we'll just play the second half of the loop once, and then probably 4 times we'll have 0.75 and the sleep should be 1. I think. Should we have a listen? Could be wrong. Now here. 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 So it should just be 2. Here. I think it should be a little bit quicker. Let's try it at 0.5. You see, at this point, you can, this is why commenting your code in and out is actually really good, because we can uncomment this part, because we know that this bit works. We just want to troubleshoot this part here. It's a nice sound, but it's not quite the one that was. It's a nice sound, but it wasn't quite the one I was looking for. Let's just try that one again. Sorry. Yep, that's definitely right. So this is the other problem with the commenting, because it uncommented the where it says plays second half of the loop. So be mindful of that. Whole bar, half the bar, half the bar. That's kind of right. Bring the other part back in. So here, then here, 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 and then back to the top. Sometimes it takes a little bit of structuring to kind of get it laid out correctly. But the thing is that it's pretty much no different to kind of moving blocks around in terms of your DAW. So there we go. Some basic ideas of like using a sample loop or looped drums along with the one shots, which you have underneath here, which you're not really sort of worried about too much. And then basically being able to structure this in such a way that we get a little bit more of a performance out of it. Okay, until next time.